It's again some 3 decades ago now that we developed the first policy tools to assist homeowners, building owners to renovate, to inspire them to do that. And in the year 2010, then we developed what we called the Renovation Plan Baden-Württemberg. Baden-Württemberg is a state in Germany. And the idea really was to assist the homeowners when they do stepwise renovations, not to take wrong decisions, not to go into lock-in effects, not to invest into wrong things, and also to take their perspective. And this tool turned out to be very successful on a state level. We then scaled that up to a national level, the so-called ISFP, the renovation plan on a national level. And then the final step was really a European project, the IFEU project. And in that project we transferred this idea of a helpful tool for homeowners to a European audience. And I think there was a lot of inspiration between, on the one hand, this project and the Brussels community. We had a lot of project meetings there, a lot of discussions. And at the same time, the EPBD, the Building Performance Directive, was recast. And so I think it did inspire quite a lot, the Article 12 in the EPBD on renovation passports. Funny is that we also have the interaction in the other way now, because we now have to introduce elements like the zero-emission building and also a more digital version of this tool. So there is an interaction between Europe and Germany in both ways. Well, first of all, I think it is the heart and the passion that goes into this document. It shouldn't be just a paper. It should be a strategic document created together by stakeholders, by ministries, by citizens, and to really gather the best ideas for how to get the building stock into decarbonized, into an energy efficient building stock. So not just creating paper, but gathering the best ideas, creating new policy instruments to tackle the challenge. Secondly, I think what we need is to do that in a socially fair way, because one of the major challenges, I'm speaking about the tenant-landlord dilemma, about investments poor homeowners have to do in order to renovate. And this must be tackled, otherwise you won't get any acceptance for building renovation at all. And so we need to speak about new instruments to help that. This involves money, of course, so new subsidy schemes, new financing mechanisms, leveraging private capital as well, but also social housing in an energy efficient way. All this needs to be part of this National Building Renovation Plan. And thirdly, I think it is very important to speed up the process, to make it faster to renovate. We only have little more than 2 decades until we need to be fully decarbonized, which is very ambitious. I think we need new approaches, innovative approaches by market people, by companies, but also by governments, like industrialized renovation, like very well organized construction sites. We call that renovation sprints, where you can really renovate in 4 weeks, a one-family house. So you go on vacation, you come back, and then it's renovated. So I think these kind of new approaches, they bring, on the one hand, a stable market, but also renovation and climate change, climate gas reduction. That's what we need in the NBRP. What we've learned in the long-term renovation strategy before is that it is so important to have a good data for the building stock. You need to know which buildings are affected, which buildings are the worst performing buildings. And that's, I think, one very important part of this new EPBD, to define worst performing buildings and to address specific policies to these buildings, because they are the ones causing a lot of energy prices, costs, and they are also the ones where very often vulnerable households live in. So the worst performing building approach is very important. Secondly, we've made the experience in Germany that it is really important to have a stable framework for companies but also for homeowners. We've had a lot of change in regulation recently in Germany, a discussion on the so-called 65% rule obligating renewable heating to a certain share. And what we've seen there really is that homeowners, because of this back and forth, didn't really know whether to invest into heat pumps or efficiency or gas boilers or whatever. And this was really poison to the development because nobody invested anymore, and there was just a controversial discussion. So I have the hope that the National Building Renovation Plan can create a stable framework over 10, over 20 years, so that the policy not only depends on the government, and so that homeowners and market players can really invest and know what they are going to expect in the future. The Building Renovation Passport is, in my view, one document that really helps the building owner to do the next steps in terms of renovation. So it should be inspirational, it should inspire people to do something, but it should also be very specific, say this is the next measure you have to do, etc. And the starting point is the current situation of the building, and that's documented in the EPC, in the Energy Performance Certificate. And so actually the EPC could be an automatic part of the Building Renovation Passport. One new thing in the directive is the Zero-Emission Building Standard, and I think it's a very helpful definition. One of the elements of that definition is that the zero-emission building should not produce fossil CO2 emissions on site. And the Building Renovation Passport helps owners to prepare for this. So for instance, you want to install a heat pump, you need to reduce your flow temperature, you can do efficiency to do that, you can increase your heating surface to do that, etc. And the roadmap is really the tool to assist the building owners in doing that. And then there is one last element that's, I think, especially relevant for buildings that are electrically heated, like with heat pumps, but also district heat. That's the Smart Readiness Indicator, which is a lot about flexibility, about smartness, about getting variable electricity tariffs and reducing the operational cost by that. And I think it should be part of every good renovation roadmap to give advice on how to do that. For instance, use your building as a storage. When you have a good efficiency, it cannot cool out so quickly. So these elements could be part of a good renovation passport. The Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, the EPBD, has very clearly defined minimum energy performance standards for the first years, at least, for 2030 and 2033. So you have to renovate the 16% worst performing buildings by the first and 26% of the worst performing buildings by the second date. So I think it's a very clear definition, and the countries have now to work on how to operationalize that, how to quantify that. What I think is important are two things. On the one hand, that's only 5 years from now that the first MAPS date will come close, and so we need to prepare the buildings already today. And so I see the MAPS as a market enabler at the same time, so that companies, energy planners, architects prepare and help the building owners achieve and come out of this worst performing building class. So already today, we need to start with this development. That's one thing. The second thing is MAPs are really an instrument to get rid of the worst performing buildings. I do think we also need additional instruments to achieve the climate goals by 2050. So we need subsidy schemes and other tools, not only to get rid of the worst performing buildings, but also to move the whole building stock into the decarbonization way. So the MAPs alone cannot do it, but we need a package of policies here.